what we're going to do is we're going to continue with 10A, which is graphing quadratic functions, but we're adding something different into the mix, all right? If I take a look at this equation, what have I added today that I didn't have before? I have my bx term, okay? So that's going to do something different with my parabola. Now let's review just a little bit. Remember that this was called the parent, right? And we said that that's like mom and dad and they never change, all right? And we're going to compare it to the kid functions. Now, if I look at this function right here, my a is what? It is 1. It's the number in front of my x squared. My b is 0, because if it doesn't exist, it's going to be a 0. And my c would be, it'd also be 0. Okay? The parent function is always like that for quadratics. Right? Now, taking a look at this, let's look at a in particular. How is this thing going to open? Looking at a. It's going to open up. Okay? And where is the vertex going to cross? It's going to be at the origin. Okay. Questions? If I need to slow down, make sure you ask me. Okay, I don't have a problem slowing down. You just got to let me know. All right, let's go to the kid. Here's the kid. It's a little bit different. My a is what? It's -1, right? My b is going to be 0, and my c is going to be 0. Okay, now, let's take a look at this. If my a is -1, how is it different from the parent? It's going to open down. And why is it going to open down? Yep, because it's a negative number. Okay, what about the width? It's going to be the same because it's still a 1, right? Okay, look at the C for a minute. How are they compared to the mom and dad? How are they compared to the parent? It's going to be the same. Yeah, vertex at origin. I'm going to hold off on the B for just a minute. Okay. All right, let's go to number 3. We're going to look at the kid again. And again, this is review from yesterday. If you don't remember yesterday, go back to the notes, okay, that I've recorded. They're 10-1. So you can go back and you can take a look. All right, let's take a look at number 3. This is the kid. What's my A? It's 1. What's my B? And what's my C? 4. So how is this thing going to open? It's going to open up. Why? Because it's a positive number. And what do I know about the width? Same width. And what about the C? What is it going to do to my parabola? Shift up how many? Again, some review, but some of you need the review. And so you might want to write this stuff down because it's going to help you eventually with your test. Okay. Questions? Something you don't understand, something you would like me to clarify? Okay, let's look at number 4, kid. Big family, isn't it? Yeah. 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 All right, so what's my A on this one? A is 1, B is 0, C is, okay, so how is it going to open? It's going to open up. What about the width? Same width. And what about my C? Shift down 4. Good. Kind of review, isn't it? Yeah. The role of A tells you whether it opens up or whether it opens down, right? Okay. If it opens down, A is negative. If it opens up, A is Positive, okay? The bigger the number, what happens to my parabola? The bigger the number, it gets skinnier. It's that vertical stretch, remember, because it gets taller quicker, the bigger the number, okay? And the smaller the number, meaning it's a fraction, it becomes wider, okay? The role of C. C, what does it do to the parabola? Shifts it up or down. So if it goes up, the number is positive. If the number is negative, it goes down. Okay, now let's take a look at this. It's a little different. That kid's going totally wacko, isn't he? Or her. What's my A here? What's my B? What's my C? 4. Okay, so it's going to open what? Up. It's going to have the same width. Okay, I'm going to skip the B part because I don't know what's going to happen. My C part, what's it going to do? Shift up 4, right? Now, what do you think that B term is going to do to my parabola? It's going to move it on the x-axis, left or right. Okay, so if this is a positive 1, which way do you think it'll move? You think it's going to move to the right? So to the right, right? Ha 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 ha, that was a joke. Supposed to laugh. Okay. All right, now I'm going to leave my smart notebook for just a minute, and I'm going to go and I'm going to use my graphing calculator. Okay, so I'm going to go in there and I'm going to put in x squared. Okay, and then I'm going to put in x squared plus what? Plus x plus 4. Thank you. Enter graph. Okay, here's mom and dad. Here's the kid. Whoa, like what totally happened? First of all, did it open up? Yes, it did. Is it the same width? It technically is. It looks smaller just because it went up. Okay, but if I actually picked it up and moved it, it would be right on top. It would be the same width. Did it shift up? It did. But rather than moving to the right, it moved to the left. So it does the opposite of what you want it to do. Okay, so let's go back and let's write that in. This is going to be shift to the left. And that's what the B is going to do, right? It's going to shift it. All right, let's skip this next one. Let's skip this kid. We don't really care about that kid. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to worry about this one. Let's skip this one and let's go to number 7. All right. My A is what? 1. My B is -3 and my C is 4. All right. So looking at my A, it's going to open up. What about the width? Same width. Okay. Look at my C, it's going to shift up. What's going to happen because my B is a -3? Shift to the right. Now, some kids would go, who cares? Just make a table and go ahead and graph it. Well, if you're graphing it and it's supposed to open up and it opens down, you're like, where did I mess up? Like, what's going on? It's supposed to do this. So the knowledge of what should happen is going to help you when you actually graph these. And that's why we're doing it. Okay. So we're going to go back to my graphing calculator here, and I'm going to put in the different numbers. And we're going to see what happens. So this ends up being a -3? 3x. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Here's mom and dad. There's the kid. Did it do what we said it would do? It did. Okay. So the reason why we do this is that when you're graphing your parabolas and things don't turn out the way you think, you're going to start looking. Where did I go wrong? All right. Now, let's go to the next slide and let's talk about the role of B. Okay. If B is positive, what's going to happen? Shift to the left. And B is negative, it's going to shift to the right. This is a test question. This is a test question. It's going to be what's the role of A, what's the role of B, and what's the role of C. Okay? And this is what I'm going to want. And you, if you want to, you can draw pictures to do it. Okay? All right. Now we're going to go into the problems. We're going to do all your notes today. And then the next time that we meet, you're going to be working on like the other half of your homework. Okay? So I'm going to do all the notes today because they're all linked together and it makes sense. So notice the problem says to graph the function, find the vertex and the axis of symmetry, and tell whether the function is a maximum or minimum. Now, if you remember yesterday when we graphed, we said that we would do -1, 0, and 1, correct? If I were to graph this parabola and only plug in -1, 0, and 1, I'd get like part of the parabola. I wouldn't get that U-shaped because do you notice I have a B term here? This thing is going to be shift to the, it's going to shift to the left. And so I'm not going to get that U-shape if I plug in those numbers. It's not going to work. So what I need to do is I need to have a special equation to help me find the vertex. Okay, because it's shifted over. So this is how we're going to do it. First of all, my A is what? 4. My B is 8. And my C is 3. Does everyone know how to find that? We're okay on that? Okay. Now what we're going to do, part 1 says to find the vertex. There's an equation to help us with that. X equals -b over 2a. Every single time you find the vertex, you're going to use that. I want you to have that memorized because that's going to help you on your ACT and your MCAs because they don't give you that. And you're going to try plugging in all these things and you're going to get discouraged and it's going to be a mess. Okay? So let's use that now. I've got negative, and I'm going to plug in my 8 over 2 times 4. I get -8 over 8, and that gives me -1. Okay, I just found the x coordinate of my vertex. You okay? Yeah. Because this says x equals, which tells us it's the y, x. We're going to find the y now of the vertex. Okay, and how we're going to do that is we're going to use the equation that they gave me up above. So I'm going to write now y equals 4x squared plus 8x plus 3. And I'm going to go ahead then and I'm going to put in that -1. Now, if I'm solving for this, what do I do first? My exponent. Excellent. Order of operations, right? Yeah. Did you notice that some of you that automatically popped into your head? Do you know why it did? Because you've done a lot of practice this year and you've learned a lot this year, and it should be natural. Okay, so y equals 4 times, what's -1 times -1? 1. Yep. So I'm just going to do the exponent first. The next step, I'm going to multiply. And if you want to multiply a couple of them, that's fine. So y equals 4 plus -8 plus 3. And then you're going to add or subtract from left to right. So 4 plus -8 is -4 plus 3 is -1. Notice how you can do that without your calculators. Do you notice that? At the beginning of the year, you had trouble with that. Notice how that's not a problem anymore. Okay. So now, what did I find? I found the y of the vertex. So my vertex is -1 comma -1. That's my vertex. And that's important, and we'll see why in just a minute. Okay, so I found my vertex. The next step is going to be my axis of symmetry. And I'm going to abbreviate it. I'm going to go AOS, axis of symmetry. Okay, do you remember what the axis of symmetry is on a parabola? Yeah, it's that line that cuts it in half. It's the butterfly body of your picture when you were in preschool, or you know the handle of the umbrella that goes through your umbrella? That's your axis of symmetry. You wouldn't want that off to the side and have your umbrella be kitty wampus, would you? I wouldn't. You'd get your rear wet, right? Yeah, you want it symmetric. So axis of symmetry is a line, and it's always going to be x equals, always, because it's a vertical line. Okay, so it's always going to be x equals, and we're going to take the number from the vertex right here. So it's going to be -1. This is the axis of symmetry. Again, it's always x equals, always, 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 because it's a vertical line, and it's always the value from the vertex. The vertex is very important. Okay, questions? All right, now what we're going to do is going to go to step 2. It says complete a table and find 2 other points. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to make a table. I'm going to put x here, I'm going to put y here, and my function here. Y equals what? 4x squared plus 8x plus 3. Very good. Okay, now watch what I do here. I'm going to put in -1 here, and I'm going to put -1 in there. Do you see that? And I got that from my vertex. And I'm going to draw my line, and I'm going to write vertex. And the reason why I do that is, why do more work? You already did the work. Put the vertex in there, and you know this is your starting point. Okay, now I need to do some other values. So I'm going to use that -1, my x value, and I want to do one bigger. What's one bigger than the -1 and the x? It's 0. So I'm going to plug in 0. It's one bigger. So y equals 4 times 0 squared plus 8 times 0 plus 3. Y equals 4 times 0 plus 8 times 0 plus 3. Y equals 0 plus 0 plus 3. And I get 3. I want at least 3 lines of work for this. Don't just put down 3 and do jazz hands like, wow, there you go, done. Okay? All right, I did one bigger. Now I need one smaller. And it's smaller than -1. What's one smaller than -1? -2. What's -2 times -2? +4. Very nice. Today, kids were saying, Mrs. Medvick, this is so easy. Like, the only thing that's different is the steps, but I mean, like, the algebra is so easy. That's because you've been working hard all year long, and it's finally paying off, which a lot of you, that's the truth. All right, now, I see that I have this happen. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing. Why is it a good thing? You know it's symmetric. Yeah. You know that it's symmetric, and you need to make sure it is. So now notice that step 3 asks me to draw my parabola. So I'm going to take a look at this. I've got my vertex being what? -1, -1, which is right here. And then I've got -2, 3. Then I got 0, 3. And then I'm going to draw my parabola. Now, again, it needs to be kind of U-shaped. I know it's tough, but there should be more curve to it. I don't want just, straight lines like an absolute value graph. Yeah, it does. Like Rudolph with a red, green nose, right? This is called the vertex. And it's going to ask you to label that in your homework. That's why we're doing it now. Make sure you draw an arrow to it and make sure you include the ordered pair. It's also going to ask you for this. What is this? Axis of symmetry, and that was x equals -1. Where did I get the -1 from again? The x of the vertex. That's correct. Okay. You need to draw a line to it or an arrow to it, and you need to put your x equals. Again, axis of symmetry is always x equals, always. Okay? Questions? We're going to do another one. We're going to do another problem. I know, but I want to make sure you're going to notice that it gets easier as we do more. Okay? Now, next step. Label the vertex and the axis of symmetry in the graph. We did that. Determine if the parabola is a minimum or maximum and find the minimum or maximum. Okay, this is like my favorite part. You guys ready? You get to see my art. This is amazing. It's going to be so much fun. Okay? All right, so here's my parabola. Okay? And I have Mark. He fell off a cliff. You're okay, though. You didn't die. It's all good, right? All right. And here's Mark. He's down at the bottom of the cliff, okay? And he's kind of sad, okay? And I'll give him some hair. He put a lot of gel on it. And he's like, help, 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 okay? Can Mark get any lower? He can't, no, he can't get any lower because he's on stone. He can't dig. And he's, no. No. So you can't get any lower. This is called a minimum. H-E-L-P, yes it does. Help! Okay, he's sad. It's okay though. I'll fly in with my private jet and I will rescue you. I will. I'll find a way to rescue. Actually, I'll have a helicopter and it'd be like Mission Impossible. And I'll come down. Yeah. All right. Now, here's me. Okay. I gotta be included. Here's me. I'm on the top of a mountain. I've always wanted blue eyes, so I'm gonna have blue eyes. Yeah, and I'm gonna have some lipstick just because I'm gonna look fashionable because I'm on top of this mountain. Okay, and I have really pretty hair, and I have my crown because I'm amazing. Okay, so here I am. Yeah. Hey, so if I'm on the top of my mountain, can I go any higher? I can't. And so this is called a maximum. Now, I know you're like, Mrs. Medvick, sounds really silly. Like, why are you doing this? Because I will guarantee you, you will take a high stakes test and you will remember Mrs. Medvick's crown. My crown and how amazing it was. And you're going to go, gee, really? I'm thinking about her. This drives me crazy. It's payback. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so you'll remember it. And it sounds crazy. You will. You will remember it. So remember that if my parabola opens down, it's a maximum. And if my parabola opens up, it's a minimum. Okay? So let's go back now to my graph right here. Is this a minimum or a maximum? It's a minimum. Okay, now it's a minimum because it opens up. Now, do you remember how the axis of symmetry was x equals? The minimum or the maximum will always be a y equals. and it will be the y of the vertex. So it's a minimum because it opens up. It's always y equals if it's a maximum or a minimum, and I grab the y of my vertex. The vertex is really important, like buku important. Yeah, major, major, major. All right, now let's go to the next problem. We're going to do this one together, and the reason why we're going to do it together is because you're going to see how fast this really goes, because this one took a while because we learned so many new things, okay? So let's take a look at this. I've got step one. What was step one? I need to find my vertex. So my A is what? -1. My B is, and my C is -1. Okay? I need to find my vertex. So x equals what? Very nice. Okay, so I'm going to bring it through. I got negative, and I got a 4. 2 times -1. -4 over -2, and I get 2. What did I just find? The x part of my vertex. Good. What's the next part? Plug it in the equation. Let's make sure we write this down. Do it on your own. When you're done, look up. See if you get the right answer. See if you have the right work. Okay, you can always show more work. I don't want less work. I don't just want you to like plug it in your calculator and like, oh, there you go. Okay, it's okay to check it that way, but make sure you know how to do it. Questions? Something you don't understand? Yeah. Yeah, how can I, yeah, this is what I do for a living. That's why I can do it so fast. You know, this is what I do for a living. Okay. I've done a lot of math. Yeah. All right. So now, my vertex. What's my vertex? 2, 3. Okay, I found that. What else can I find? Yep. Axis of symmetry. It's not just 2. It's x equals 2. It must be x equals because it's an equation. It's an equation. It's a vertical equation. Okay, vertical line. Okay, and where did you get the 2 from? From my vertex. Okay, so I'm done with that. What would be my next step? I need to make a table. All right, so I'm going to make my table. Negative x squared what? Thank you. Okay, what value am I going to put in my table right away? 2 and the 3, and I'm going to label it a. Okay, what values am I going to plug in? I'm going to plug in a 1. Why did you get a 1? 1 smaller than the vertex. That's right. And that's what kids tend to forget. What would be my next value? Y3. 1 bigger than the vertex. More work on that. Put more work in there. Make sure that you put the work in your table so you have something to go by when you're doing your homework and you go, oh, that's right, Mrs. Medvick wanted me to show more work. All right, I see something I like. What is it? My double twos. This means I did something right. If you didn't see those double numbers, you did something wrong. Either your vertex is wrong or your other two numbers were put in wrong, or you didn't do one bigger, one smaller. You might have done one bigger, two smaller. Okay. All right, so the next step would be to graph. So I'm going to go 2, 3, and I'm going to do 1, what? 1, 2. Whoa. Whoa, that's scary. Is it supposed to do that?
Yeah.
Why? Because you said so.
You're dumb.
Why is that okay?
Because it's shifted.
My A, it's a, yeah, and my A is negative, yes? So it should open down, yeah. So now what I need to do is I need to label this. Okay, 2, 3. I need to draw in my axis of symmetry. X equals 2. Right? I do. Is it a maximum or is it a minimum? It's a maximum. Why? Because I'm on top of the mountain. Because it opens down, right? Okay? And I need to write something underneath that. What would I write? Y equals, and it would be 3. And where did you get the 3 from? The vertex. Now, the reason why it's called a maximum is because the Y value can't get any higher than that. If I were to graph that and put all kinds of X values in, that Y value would never get bigger. That's why it's called a maximum, and that's why I grab my Y value, okay? That's where the Y value of the vertex means something. Okay, I think we got everything then. Let's go ahead and look at your assignment.